This is West Virginia Morning. I'm Teresa Wills. While addiction rates are declining, substance abuse is still the most common reason that children are taken from their parents, which can set up a lifetime of trust issues.
They see their classmates getting taken away from their parents. So as a result, they're very guarded when it comes to the relationship with the caseworker.
That story and more coming up this West Virginia Morning. Support for West Virginia Morning is provided by Hope Gas, committed to the growth and development of West Virginia to strengthen the community. Information at wvisforhope.com. Logan County Schools have been under some level of state control for close to 4 years. Chris Schultz reports they are gaining back local control, but the district's financial outlook is concerning.
Despite improvements to the district's finances and procedures, County Superintendent Dr. Sonia White laid out Logan County Schools' stark situation to the West Virginia Board of Education Wednesday. She said, like many districts in the state, the county has had to make dramatic cuts in both professional and service personnel at all levels due to being over state funding levels. White also said early numbers for this year showed that the district of just over 4,000 students is losing enrollment at an alarming rate.
The loss of 312 students negatively impacts our funding by at least $2 million annually. Closing multiple schools is not something I wanted to do in my first year, but we cannot continue to ignore the writing on the wall when it comes to being financially responsible with dwindling funds we have.
The board voted to return management and operation of federal programs back to Logan County Schools, but the district remains under state intervention. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Chris Schultz in Morgantown.
It's still not clear how many needy children received back-to-school clothes or if any of the funds were instead used for beer and cigarettes following a hearing on the state school clothing voucher program. Maria Young reports.
Once the state's $200 school clothing allowance is loaded onto an EBT card, those funds can be used to access cash through ATMs, said the state's new Department of Human Services Secretary Carl Ayers.
So as you look at how those benefits are spent, once they are pulled into cash, I have no way to account for how the benefit was spent. I can't tell you, was it spent on this, was it spent on anything else?
Ayers told members of the Legislative Oversight Commission on Health and Human Resources Accountability that the voucher funds, $200 per student, are loaded along with other cash benefits for needy families. 37% of the funds were spent at retailers like Walmart and Target. Just over 35% were withdrawn at banks. Other funds were used at convenience stores, clothing retailers, or grocery stores.
And then there was a little bit under 1% that I would classify as being in the alcohol, tobacco, cannabis stores.
But even those funds were taken out through ATMs, not through direct sales. Senator Eric Tarr, a Republican from Putnam County, expressed frustration that recipients were using the EBT cards as they have been directed to do.
What I take offense with is that you have a card that can be used for everything else you're saying that's given as evidence that, hey, we're seeing signs of abuse here. It bugs me a lot because you got people typically in these situations who want out of it in the first place. And I know that because I've lived it.
Ayers told the committee there are already discussions underway in his office about what changes to the voucher program might be needed. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Maria Young in Charleston.
Student assessments in math and English fell nationwide during the COVID-19 pandemic, but students in West Virginia now surpass 2019 proficiency levels. Eric Douglas has more.
The West Virginia Board of Education released the 2026 student assessment results Wednesday at its monthly meeting. Scores are above pre-pandemic levels overall and at most grade levels. The proficiency level in math increased to nearly 40%, almost a point higher than 2019 levels. The only grade level to decline was grade 4. It fell by 1%. The overall English language arts assessment stayed the same as last year, but higher than in 2019. Several grade levels improved, but that was balanced by a 4% drop for grade 11. A recent national study ranked West Virginia second in the nation for the most underprivileged children. Contributing factors include low-income households, low workforce participation rates, and the number of children living in foster care or with grandparents. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, this is Eric Douglas in Charleston.
This is West Virginia Morning. I'm Teresa Wills. It's 7:55. Areas of fog this morning, partly sunny skies today, chance of rain and thunderstorms, high temperatures in the 80s. A flood watch remains in effect for most areas of West Virginia through Friday morning. West Virginia has been at the center of America's opioid epidemic and overdose death toll. While recent reports show the state's overdose deaths have fallen by nearly 38%, addiction remains the most common reason for West Virginia children to be taken from their families. In the next episode of Us and Them, host Trey Kay attends a WVU training symposium, including a screening of the recent film, What We Hide. And he hears from professionals who work with people affected by addiction.
As we watched What We Hide, one thing kept surfacing beneath almost everything Spider and Jesse do. Trust. Or more precisely, the absence of it. They can't trust their mother to care for them. They don't trust adults who are supposed to protect them. And they're terrified that if they trust the child welfare system with the truth, they'll be separated. I asked Dan Kay whether that fear and mistrust were things he encountered while researching the film.
I flew to Ohio from LA, and I traveled Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia with a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist by the name of Julia Keller, who set up dozens of interviews for us throughout that region. One of the incredibly memorable experiences we had was sitting in a small room on the campus of Marshall University with about a dozen caseworkers. We must have sat with them for a good several hours, and we just engaging in a dialogue with these women, and they were all women, just talking to us about their experiences. They refer to in the movie, they refer to the caseworker as a baby snatcher. That came directly from what I learned in talking to these women. They talk
use that. They use
oh, absolutely, yeah. Okay. Well, yes, and these women in talking about their experiences, one of the many challenging things that they faced was the lack of trust. Because for these kids, they know what they represent. They represent the possibility of being pulled away from a parent. These kids are often in these communities, as many of you may know, they have many other friends who are going through the same thing. So they see their parents getting taken away, they see their classmates getting taken away from their parents, or a parent dying and the kids going into the foster system and getting separated. These kids are pretty savvy. They understand that. So as a result, they're very guarded when it comes to the relationship with the caseworker, because they don't want to be taken out of their homes.
One of the people joining the conversation that night was Dolly Sullivan, a clinical social worker in Morgantown who works with individuals and families and specializes in trauma and mental health.
You know, Spider and Jesse are like, you have Jesse who's kind of more the eternal optimist, right? And doesn't really realize that people can't be trusted until her big sister points it out, right? And so when I think about how, like, from top to bottom, it wasn't just the system that they couldn't trust. It was their mom too, right? And so when I think of it from a trauma perspective, you know, for me, trauma is not what happens, it's how it changes our brain.
You can listen to the entire episode wherever you get your podcasts or listen online at wvpublic.org. Us and Them is supported in part with a grant from the CRC Foundation. West Virginia Morning is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Support for our news bureaus comes from Shepherd University and Marshall University School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Maria Young produced today's show. Listen to West Virginia Morning weekdays at 7:49 a.m. on WVPB Radio, or subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode. #WV Morning. I'm Teresa Wills.